We've all heard a lot today. You've all been sitting here since 11:30. There are many things you've already heard, thought about, felt. I am going to do this thing very simply where I'll speak about 6 things in the next 10 minutes, hopefully. I want to start by talking about, we have generally said, okay, the worst and the most marginalized people will be affected. Yes, we all agree. Dalits will be affected, tribals will be affected, Muslims will be affected, Christians will be affected. I also want to talk about 2 other groups of people, and I want you to think about them with me. Now, all of you know this in your head, you have seen this, how women's expression of political agency is very limited in the country. Yes, we see that women tend to vote as their husbands, their votes are often not transferred properly. And I want you to think about what is going to happen to that rural woman in the outskirts in Tumkur somewhere. She was married at in her 10th, 11th standard, didn't complete education, does not have documents, parents are agriculture farmers, workers, no property, no land. What happens to women like that? Where do they go? What happens to the trans people, the transgender people that we see on our streets? All of you on our junctions have noticed people continue the practice of Mangti, yes? Now, after 2014, you recognize trans people as equal citizens after the Nalsa judgment, the landmark Supreme Court judgment. You also have a Trans Person Protection of Rights Act, which recognizes them as equal citizens. We also have some very young elected trans persons in Gram Sabhas and Panchayati levels. But how many of them vote? Do you know how many of them are forced to run away from their families? They don't stay at homes. They don't stay in conventional houses of families of 4 and 5. The community takes care of them. Their communities take care of them. And an exercise like this in a SIR, which is based on ancestry, which is based on community, which is based on where you have come from, the caste, community, class, religion that you have come from. What happens to those who have been oppressed by these structures themselves? In Bihar, the most excluded, the highest percentage of excluded were the women voters. We don't even have a metric or an understanding of where did the trans people figure and feature in all of this. We don't even know that, right? This is happening why? Because the MHA and the Home Minister himself has said, detect, delete, and deport, right? And we've already spoken about the narrative of Ghusbetia and how that is a false narrative. I just want to layer that with one more thing. That hatred which the Home Minister speaks from his belly, that hatred that he speaks from, has internalized in the making of this Hindu Samaj, in this Hindutva Samaj. In West Bengal, allegedly, there are 9 people who have lost their lives to suicide on the fear of disenfranchisement of the SIR. Because not just disenfranchisement, it is the hatred. You are not ours. Namdu illa. You are not ours, you don't belong here. Go back to where you came from. Who is ours, who belongs? This narrative, it has seeped in so much hatred in everyday lives, and it has a cost. It has a cost for the working class. These are not elite people necessarily. But I will come to that also. In Kerala, we all must have read, there is one booth level officer who has allegedly again died by suicide because of the extent of work pressure of deadline as in the exercise of SIR while the elections are pending. In Rajasthan, in Jaipur, another booth level officer has died by suicide, right? So what is this signaling to us? What is this signaling to us? And I want to connect to what Tara has just spoken before us. This is a state of emergency. It is a state of emergency for us to not feel complacent in saying that, why do we vote? What do we do? Yes, those questions have to be asked, but they don't have to be asked with the feeling of there is no respite, there is no possibility of respite. Yes, it is true that in this exercise of SIR, everybody has spoken about it. The burden of proof is reversed. Now, you and I have to go and show, if you look at the declaration form, we have to show our epic numbers, we have to show our parents' epic numbers if we are born after 2004, right? But this reverse burden of proof and this reversing the entire polity is not new. UAPA is exactly that. You are left to prove you're not a criminal in the logic, or is the same logic of the UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It is also the same logic we see in operation in our city. In 2019, when the CA and NRC, and the CAB in fact, at that point in time, we all came to know of it. Where were we? Were we sitting in a closed hall like this? No. We were in town hall. It was still ours. We still had a right to protest. We didn't have to beg for permissions before the government. Now, this Congress government has put us in a situation, has continued the logic of the BJP government where we are forced to sit in halls like this. Because the town hall is not ours for anymore. The burden is ours. I have to tell you how many people will come. Do I have permission to use a loudspeaker? Who are the VVIPs that are coming? And I may even have to give an undertaking to say that there will be no promotion of enmity based on my protest and my actions. In that context, keeping in mind the political reality that we are in a Congress governed state, not ruled, governed. They have our mandate. We voted them to power for a very specific purpose, to realize the values of the Constitution and the transformative potential of the Constitution. The collective punishment that the SIR is going to enforce on people, it is a collective punishment. Along with the bloodless genocide, it is a collective punishment. Like Parkala sir said, it's not just a bloodless genocide, it is a collective punishment. You prove your ancestry, prove where you came from. And if you can't prove, you can contest it. But out of the 65 lakh voters, the people who would have voted for the previous election in Bihar, only 33,000 had the capacity to even challenge, object to their exclusion. The others couldn't even object to it. Because we are living in a capitalist society, right? Who has the time to object? How will the working class have the time to fill the forms? Will they have the support of the unions? Will they have the support? And is it only the unions' burdens to ensure that the workers are able to fill up these forms for their voting rights? And finally, I want to talk about what does this do to the question of, along with rights, the question of social security of the working class. As rights-bearing citizens, you also have something called the public distribution system. You also have healthcare, free healthcare. You're also entitled to right to education. You're also entitled to pensions. All of these things, after you are not just made a suspect, you're a D voter, you're a doubtful voter. What happens to all these for the most marginalized? The elite will still find their their corporate hospitals to ensure their health care. But what happens to the rest of us? And these are questions we have to think about in terms of how we articulate our response. Now, what do we do? We've all spoken for so long. How do we do this? Just like in our politicians and the politics that, that India has, it is not natural to any of us to know how to build democratic and transparent processes. We don't know how to do that. It's something we have to learn. It's something we have to learn with taking along people from different backgrounds, with understanding different struggles. What will be the struggles of the tribal community with respect to this? The nomadic community with respect to the SIR. And the work is really a question to all of us, that sitting in a Congress-ruled state, Congress governed, not ruled, what has been the Congress's response to this citizenship chori that is happening? The question is to them. They're talking about vote chori, but there is a citizenship chori that is happening here, which the ECI is not entitled to do. The ECI is a constitutional body, yes, but can they decide citizenship? No. So what is the Congress's stance on this citizenship chori? And unless a resolution is passed with urgency saying that we will not implement SIR, it is a question for all of us, then what is the point of them being in power? Are they really a valid opposition? And how much is it that we have to do as citizens, as people of this country, we the people, to be able to say that we have rights. You don't give us rights. We can assert those rights as it is. It is also a question that in all the oppositions, in all the states where SIR has been notified now, people are being forced to cooperate and to ensure that they are in the electoral rolls. So the question is, how do we strategically respond? Do we put our energies to ensure people are there? Do we reject it? Do we politically reject it? Do we politically say we will not participate in elections like this? If all of us are there, then none of us, without all of us being there, we will not participate? Because these are the questions that people on the ground are asking. That do you want us to participate if the election process is so compromised? Then how do we participate? How do we trust the results? Like you said, 90% strike rate. Then what are the realistic answers? And with these questions, and hoping that this meeting emerges in next steps, that just because we have been forced to be in a hall and not on the streets, we are not reduced in terms of our clarity and in terms of our political purpose. With that, I'll end.